The night was silent, too silent for a kingdom that once echoed with laughter and music. Beneath the watchful eyes of a blood-red moon, a lonely bell tolled across the fog-soaked fields, announcing not victory, but punishment. The year was 1327, and in a small English village nestled between two cold rivers, an event took place so strange, so tragic, that it changed the laws of the land forever. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, then please, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Sleepless Tales. Stories like this remind us that behind every ancient rule lies a human heart, and a pain that once screamed for justice. Now, let's go back, to where it all began. In the village of Norlee, the world was ruled by superstition more than by any king. Every dawn, smoke from the thatched huts curled toward the gray sky, carrying with it the scent of toil, fear, and prayers whispered into the wind. Peasants woke before the sun, breaking frozen soil with their bare hands, earning barely enough to keep hunger at bay. Among them lived a young woman named Alara, whose beauty was whispered about like a sin. Her eyes carried the calm of a still pond, and her voice was said to tame even the fiercest drunkard. But beauty was dangerous in those times, especially for someone of low birth. Alara lived with her younger brother, Tomas, in a hut at the edge of the woods. Their parents had died in the plague when Alara was 15, leaving her to raise Tomas alone. Despite hardship, she worked at the manor of Lord Aldred, a man whose wealth was matched only by his cruelty. Rumors whispered that he collected not just taxes, but secrets, and those who crossed him were never seen again. One fateful autumn evening, during the harvest feast, Alara was ordered to serve wine in the great hall. The manor blazed with candles, and the lords laughed as they feasted on roasted boar and mead. Alara moved quietly between them, head bowed, her hands trembling under the weight of fear and exhaustion. Lord Aldred's gaze followed her, hungry and unholy. When she spilled a drop of wine on his table, silence fell. His voice cut through the air, cold and sharp as steel. "A peasant dares to waste my drink," he hissed. Before anyone could speak, his hand struck her across the face, sending her to the floor. The hall erupted in laughter. Only one man, Sir Rowan, a knight known for his honor, looked away. His conscience burned. But in those times, defying a lord meant death. That night, Alara fled to the forest, her cheeks swollen, her heart shattered. Tomas begged her to stay hidden, but hunger drove her back to the village by dawn. What she didn't know was that the lord's prized falcon, a rare white bird said to be worth more than gold, had vanished overnight. When the falcon was found dead near the village well, rumors spread like wildfire. Lord Aldred accused Alara of witchcraft, claiming she cursed his bird for revenge. In a single breath, her life turned from poverty to peril. Witchcraft meant death, and Norlee had seen many such trials. Alara was dragged before the village council. The air was thick with fear, not justice. The Lord declared that if she was innocent, God himself would save her. They tied her hands and feet, weighed her with stones, and threw her into the freezing river. The villagers gathered, whispering prayers that contradicted their own cruelty. As the cold water swallowed her screams, Tomas fell to his knees, begging for mercy. Sir Rowan, watching from afar, clenched his jaw. He had seen war, plague, and famine, but never the murder of innocents so quiet, so justified by law. When Alara's body floated to the surface, limp, pale, lifeless, the crowd gasped. "She floats," the priest shouted. "The witch is guilty." And so, her death became their proof. But something happened that no one expected. That same night, as the Lord slept in his chamber, lightning struck the manor's tower. Flames devoured the wooden beams, and screams filled the dark. The falcon's cage melted in the heat, and by dawn, the great Lord Aldred was dead, his body found clutching the scorched remains of the bird he had loved more than any human soul. Whispers spread again. Some said the heavens had avenged Alara. Others said her spirit had returned to balance what law could not. But the truth, the painful, unspoken truth, was that one woman's death exposed the rot at the heart of their justice. In the months that followed, Sir Rowan could not rest. He had seen too much blood, but Alara's eyes haunted him, not for their beauty, but for their faith. "If God watches," she had once said quietly while serving him bread, "then he must weep often." Rowan petitioned the king's court to change the trial by water, the cruel law that allowed drowning to prove innocence. His words were mocked at first. What was one peasant woman to the nobles of England? But fate has strange ways of turning whispers into roars. That winter, another lord's daughter was accused of witchcraft, and by a cruel twist, she too was subjected to the water test. She drowned before the crowd could even cheer. Her father, a baron of great influence, demanded reform. Suddenly, the same lords who laughed at Rowan's plea began to nod. In 1331, the king himself declared an end to the trial by ordeal. No longer could men claim God's will as an excuse for cruelty. It was the birth of something rare in those days, compassion written into law. But while the realm celebrated its progress, Tomas wandered alone. His sister's grave lay beneath an oak tree at the edge of the river. He carved her name into a stone, with trembling hands and a heart that never healed. For him, justice came too late. Years passed. The river thawed, the plague returned, and kings came and went. Yet in Norlea, the story of Alara became legend. Some said her ghost guarded the river, warning travelers who strayed too close. Others claimed flowers grew each spring where her body once lay. But one thing was certain, no one ever drowned another woman in that village again. The memory of that insane incident, as the chroniclers later called it, outlived all who had witnessed it. What began as one act of cruelty became the reason a kingdom learned mercy. And even centuries later, historians would read the old records and pause at the name Alara of Norlea, the peasant who changed the law of kings. But our story doesn't end there. In a quiet abbey not far from the ruins of Norlea, a monk once discovered an old letter hidden in the binding of a Bible. It was written in a shaky hand, signed by Sir Rowan himself. The parchment read, "I failed to save her, yet through her death, the world awoke. Let this be written, that a single innocent, wronged by man, can still turn the course of nations. May no law be ever born again from fear, but from the mercy she deserved." That letter was later preserved in the royal archives, the first written acknowledgement that laws could be wrong, that justice could be cruel. It is said that from that point on, any new law passed in England was preceded by the phrase, "for the good and safety of the innocent." And all because of one girl, one lie, one night, and one river. Sometimes history remembers kings and battles, but forgets the quiet souls who suffered beneath their shadows. Yet, every law that protects you today, every right you enjoy, might trace its roots to a single story like Alara's. To a nameless peasant, a whispered prayer, and a life taken unjustly in the name of order. And maybe that's what makes this story so powerful, not the tragedy, but the transformation that followed it. Because even in an age of darkness, a single act of injustice can light the flame of change. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel the weight of how far we've come as humans, please like, comment, and share this video. It helps Sleepless Tales bring more forgotten voices back to life. Speech balloon special request, comment below. For the innocent who were never heard. Your words will keep their memory alive. History is not made by kings alone. Sometimes, it's written by those the world tried hardest to silence. And in the silence of Norlea's river, her name still whispers. Mercy.